Yo, what it do, YouTube? I am. So, man, I'm about to get up in this gym, man. But before I get in this gym, I was sitting in my vehicle after getting off of work, which I normally do, just to decompress. You know, I've been driving all day. That's literally what we do all day. Literally spend 10 to 11 hours a day behind a wheel. So just driving. I don't know how many people in this world can drive that long. You know, just taking a road trip for 5 hours. Most people are like, man, that's enough driving for the day. But we gotta drive 10 to 11 hours a day. But that's not what this video is about, man. You know, I've been in Southern California for a year, the LA region, right? And I'm originally from Northern California. I'm from Oakland, California. But this is what I want to say. After being in Southern California for a year, I want to tell you my opinion, my experience. I'm gonna say this. Niggas is finished out here, man. Niggas is finished out here. It's a wrap. It's a wrap, nigga. It's a wrap, man. I don't know how y'all hanging on out here, but I'm gonna say it's a wrap. I don't know. I'm just being honest, man. I'm not trying to be emotional. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm not trying to be any of that. I'm just going to speak my truth. I'm going to speak my truth the best way I know how. And just say this. If you are contemplating moving to Southern California, you might want to think twice. You might want to think 3 times. Especially if you're a Black American. You can't use the excuse that I'm coming here for acting, or I'm coming here to pursue my music career or my acting career. You can do that YouTube. There's people on YouTube that blow up on YouTube and go viral. I mean, look at iShowSpeed. He's the biggest YouTuber online right now. I think he live in the East Coast or whatever. And then you got Kai Cenat, you got Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber. He's not from LA. I don't even think he even been to LA. So this whole notion that you gotta come to LA or Hollywood to pursue your acting career or your music, maybe 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, but not today. You got social media. You can blow up on social media right in the comfort of your home. I mean, you got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got all these avenues that if you are creative, you can use in the comfort of your home. So that can't be an excuse. Can't be an excuse no more. You know, it can't. But why do I say that? I'm saying for the average Black American, African American, whatever you want to call yourself. It's a wrap. It's a wrap out here, man. The competition is just too stiff. The numbers are too small on your side. And it's not getting any better. It's not going to get any better. Y'all that may watch my videos, y'all know that I work as a truck driver. I do truck driving. And I have education that will enable me to do more than truck driving, but I'm doing truck driving as a survival. When I got into trucking, it was a survival job. When I started trucking, I started it for survival. That's why I got into trucking, right? And I've been doing that for like 2 years. So mainly in California. I did some OTR. But I want to say that most of my trucking experience has been here in California, first in Northern California, and now as of recent here in Southern California. But I go to all these warehouses here in Southern California. I go to the Inland Empire. I go all throughout the LA area. I go even to San Diego, to the border. Pretty much everywhere in the LA area and the Inland Empire I go as a local driver. And every warehouse that I go to, literally 90% to 95 to 99% of the warehouses I go to pick up my loads or to deliver my loads, there is literally an absence of Black Americans working in them warehouses. And I know that we can do other jobs, the government and all that stuff, right? But those jobs are few and far between. And with the red man, or with the orange man in office, he's trying to get, he's wanting to get rid of a lot of those jobs, right? We see that he's been wanting to reduce the federal workforce. He's been wanting to get rid of a lot of federal jobs because he feels like, the whole thing with him and Elon Musk and cutting the budget, all this shit, right? So a lot of Black Americans have to depend on blue-collar jobs and some service work, retail jobs, things like that. But in all the warehouses that I go through throughout the day, and since I've been here for a year, driving locally, 95 to 99% of those warehouses are predominantly Hispanic. And that's not by accident. A few times I took out a time to question some people, right? So I asked, a lot of these jobs are being filled through staffing agencies, right? So one time I asked an employee that worked at one particular warehouse, I said, hey man, I'm new to the area, like where's the African Black Americans? And he said, I said, well, I haven't seen none of them. He said, well, usually, the environment is hostile. I said, hostile? Huh? What do you mean? Well, maybe they feel isolated. Maybe they feel left out. Maybe they feel that, I said, why would they? Because what's more than likely happening is the individuals are getting, they're more than likely, let me set it down. They're more than likely going to these warehouses. Oh, actually, I should sit over there, y'all. Let me go sit down like quick. I'm gonna finish this video. I'm trying to wrap it up. I don't want this video to be too long. This too long, because I want to get in the gym. But more than likely, what he meant by that is, let's say they hired a Black American. And there's numerous videos online to back this up, right? You can go, I watched the African News Diaspora, Brother Phil Scott. He did a video on how this Nigerian brother, I think he's Nigerian, he was a contractor, and he was basically saying how he was told by his Hispanic employees, like, hey, you guys should get, they was trying to encourage him to fire his Black employees and replace them with Hispanic employees. They were trying to encourage him to do that, right? And he was like, he got mad because he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a video. If you brother Phil Scott, he did a video on it. But this is a situation that's probably happened. So when they talk about hostility, a hostile environment, more than likely what's probably happening is these brothers are going, our sisters are going to these environments. They being isolated. They being targeted because they're the only one. They're the other, you know, they're the, let's say the Hispanic individuals are probably more than likely making sure that they're speaking Spanish. So they're having to deal with that situation, not being able to understand what's being said about them if they haven't learned Spanish, if they don't speak Spanish. So, you know, this type of situation is what's happening in these environments. When they talk about hostility, this is what they're probably talking about, dealing with that situation. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with just not being selected. You know, and today I talked with another a staffing. I asked her, I said, hey, you know, where the African Americans at? And her response was, oh, you know, they don't want to work. They want all these accommodations. So basically what you're saying is that they're probably asking for basic accommodations. More than likely they're asking for basic accommodations. And these other individuals are willing to do the work with no accommodations because maybe they just come from a harsh environment. But that's what she basically said, that these Black American workers were probably just asking for basic, hey, can we have a break? Can we go use the restroom? Are we allowed to go drink some water? Hey, can y'all turn some fans on in this hot ass? It's the mid of summer. It's about 100 damn degrees in this warehouse. They probably asking for that type of stuff. And the ones that just came here, they like, oh, we don't need all that, nigga. We living 7 deep, 10 deep in a 1 bedroom. We don't need these accommodations. We just need to work. You know, you can't compete, man. You can't compete. You know, play your Liberace. So, yeah, I wanted that music to be heard, but I don't want to get a copyright. But when I say, just wrapped it up at the gym, y'all. Just wrapped it up. Got a good workout in. Good workout, man. I had to, you know, stay healthy. But continuing what I was saying, when I say that Black American folks are done in LA County, Southern California, I'm speaking from a economical, social, and political. And even though LA has a Black mayor, she even claims to have Hispanic, Latino heritage, which is nothing wrong with that. Which is nothing wrong with to be of Hispanic, Latino heritage. And she, from what I heard, I'm not paying much attention to her, but from what I heard, she's married to a Hispanic husband. And we're not talking about Afro-Latino. In addition to that, we just see what she's been doing. Like, even like, I see all these homeless people here in LA County on Skid Row, and her focus is not on that. Her focus is on giving debit cards to people who may have entered this country illegally, protecting them, but not protecting people that's supposedly for her own lineage. So I'm speaking more from an economic, social, political, and I would say demographic point of view, that we are pretty much, it's pretty much a wrap for us out here. And we, in this game called capitalism, everybody's competing for these resources, right? Everybody's competing for jobs. Everybody's competing for housing, competing for certain set-asides from the government. They're all competing for these things. And when you have over half of the population are Hispanic, non-white, and that's the ones that don't classify as white, and the black population is such a small percentage. And I go back to what I was saying about when I asked the woman in the warehouse where I delivered to, I asked her, hey, do you guys, what's going on? Like, do African Americans, is it a demographic thing? Do African Americans don't apply for these positions? And she says, no, they do, but they don't last. Well, that's just showing that, she's saying what she's saying is in so many words, because she couldn't just come out and say it. Now I feel like it's a different. I don't think it's like I said, I don't think that's the case, right? I think when individuals go into the staffing agency to apply for work, they see who's going in. The people that submitting their applications, they see the last names. And I believe that they're choosing more of last names that have a Hispanic, origin than the others. Than Black American sounding names. And like I said earlier, like when they get into this environment, they make it hostile for these individuals, right? So a black American person may get a job, right? And she said, oh, well, they asked for too many accommodations. Well, we are American citizens. We're not used to what the other individuals may come from in that environment. We've been here, we're used to getting certain accommodations. And we're not asking, when I worked in the warehouse early on, not asking for red carpet treatment and all this stuff, but basic accommodations. Hey, like I said, do we get a break? Is there access to a water fountain? Can we have a back brace? Something like things like, or we may have to buy our own back brace. But hey, can we not work 12 hours straight without a break? And the other groups may not. They may be willing to go put up with that because of what they go through. But I would say more than likely that's the ones that just came here, because the ones that's been here, even they asking for accommodations. But they'll use that, and then they'll use the language barrier, right? And you'll feel real isolated. Just imagine you the only Black American person in that warehouse. You haven't took the time to learn Spanish or understand it, so you are in that warehouse and you working, and while you working, your colleagues start all speaking in Spanish when they can speak English, but they obviously speaking in Spanish because they don't want you to hear something. Even in the office staff I deal with, I remember it was one situation where I was having, a disagreement with a particular manager, and the two female managers who speak English perfectly, I don't think, they may be, I don't know, second, third generation, who knows? I never asked that. But all of a sudden, they break off and start speaking in Spanish. Immediately, what went to my mind is they're trying to say something that they don't want me to hear. So they're probably talking, more than likely, talking. I was dealing with another Caucasian, older white management, and they kind of broke off to themselves and started having this whole conversation in Spanish. And so I was like, okay, they're saying something they don't want me to understand because they can speak English perfectly. So when you deal with those type of circumstances, those situations, you be like, when you deal with those type of certain situations, hold on, y'all. When you're dealing with those type of situations, it's like you don't feel comfortable. You feel like you be feeling like, hey man, these people all against me. I don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? And they probably making you do extra work. They probably going behind your back and snitching on you to the other Hispanic managers, trying to get you up out of there. So that's why I just feel like the numbers, everything is about numbers. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. The numbers, it just may be too late, you know. It may be too late. They have turned this area back into Mexico. And it just may be too late. So what's the solution? We are still predominant in the South. We are still predominant in, southern states, South. And we still have numbers in the Midwest. You look at places like DC and East Coast. I believe that's East Coast. We still dominant. So what I think that our solution is, if you are a black person right now, you don't have a real career. You don't have a real career. I'm not talking about no, warehouse job, some type of service job. I'm not talking about that. If you are a black American person and you don't have a real career, you don't have property that you inherited or own, if you just renting and you have a regular old job, you don't have no obligations as far as like family members you got to take care of, children you got to take care of, small children. Like if you don't have none of that, even if you have that, you might have to consider this too. But especially if you don't have none of that, I think the best option, the best thing that we should do, is go to the areas in the South, these areas where we still have the numbers, and make sure we keep those strongholds. Don't allow those areas to turn into Southern California. Don't allow it, because if you allow it, it will happen. But don't allow it. Don't allow those areas to turn into that. Do what is necessary to keep those areas predominantly black by any means necessary. And we need to get on a code. We need to that code need to be black first, always. Support each other, support each other's businesses, do good business. If you are a black owned business, don't be just saying, oh, you got to support me because you black. Make sure you do good business. And that's what we need to do to try to save ourselves in this country that's going down. That's the most that we can do to try to save ourselves. But yeah, in Southern Cal, we done. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. You know, if you stay around, you just hanging on by your shoestrings. You know, you just hanging on, hoping that you're not the next one let go. You know what I'm saying? Hoping that they don't find a way to get you up out of there and replace you with one of their own. You know, and that's just the reality. So with that being said, this your brother Jay. I'm out.